Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Real to Real Talk. I am Sergio Barrera, and it's time once again to talk all things movies. Of course, I couldn't do it without my fellow Real to Real Talker, Paul Britton. Paul, welcome to what is going to be a quite an interesting show.
Yeah, man, we got some movies to talk about.
We do, and we are actually doubling up on a couple of things that we have been doing around here for a bit. Well, at least one of them for a bit, and then second time around for the other. And that we're going to be doing both a Netflix roulette and a Tubi word salad.
Yeah,
and I got to tell you, Tubi continues to.
It's so much fun.
It really is.
So
man,
fun.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, and then we'll be, of course, doing our weekly segments, and then you're going to talk to us about the new release, The Little Mermaid. Came out last week with some impressive opening weekend numbers.
Yeah, man. In one weekend,
mm-hmm.
Little Mermaid domestically outgrossed Fast and Furious's 2 weekends.
Yeah.
Which, not gonna lie, makes me really happy. The rest of the world needs to catch the fuck up. But,
Yeah. I didn't quite know that fact, but it doesn't surprise me. It does not surprise me.
Yeah.
If you're not sure what we're talking about, go catch our review of Fast X and then thank us. So as we prepare to begin this week, Netflix Roulette has always given us some interesting movies to talk about, and this time around was really no different, because as we get ready for our first bit of discussion here, we're going to do the old Netflix roulette, sponsored by, or not sponsored by, but we got the idea from our friends at realgood.com.
Yeah.
You can go to realgood.com, realgood.com/roulette, pop in a streaming service. We do Netflix, and let it tell you, based on whatever genre you select, what movie to watch. And so we stay true to the wheel, Paul.
Yes.
And we are given some interesting stuff.
Yeah.
And I chose the genre this time around in honor of the Mermaid, the Little Mermaid release, to go animated films.
Yes, you
did. And first of all, let me just say that when you gave me the title and I found the poster, I was like, ooh, this looks really interesting. So do you mind getting us started?
Sure.
With your entry this time around?
So my movie is entitled White Snake 2 Green Snake, which means I ended up with a double feature because I hadn't seen White Snake 1.
Okay.
Available on Hulu, not available on Netflix, oddly enough. But it's available on Hulu, so short hop over to Hulu. I watched White Snake. It's a Chinese animated movie. The animation is good. I mean, it's pretty standard animation for today.
Mm-hmm.
But not like, oh my goodness, it really is good. It's just like, yeah, okay, that's good. And it's interesting because I don't know if you have any awareness of the historical complexities between China and Japan, but let's just say it's complex.
Okay.
But the interesting thing is, I also know that you have some modicum of exposure to anime, like not deep, but some. There's basically three. There's basically like 3 kind of storylines that anime follows, and those storylines are superheroes, high school people fucking or wanting to fuck, and demons. And then it takes those 3, and then like there's frequently combinations of the 3. Like they'll kind of shuffle the deck, but those are the 3 big things. And like for whatever reason, demons is a big deal, and so it turns out that this is based off of Chinese demon lore. I didn't do the research, and interesting. I watched the first movie. And then I watched the second movie. The first movie has absolutely nothing to do with the second movie. Like it's literally like whoever made these movies said, "Hey, you know what? The Fast and the Furious people did 1 and 2, and then they made 3, which had nothing to do with the first 2. I think we can do that with here, although we will carry over like the 2 main characters, but like just have it just the story that happened in the first one is just like meh. So I'm going to do the same thing. and we're just going to talk about the second one. There are two demon sisters, White Snake and Green Snake, and one Blanca and Verda. Yes, Blanca and Verda.
Makes sense.
Yes. I'll let you guess which one's the White Snake, which one's the Green Snake. And, in this episode of the trials and tribulations of these two sisters, there is a Taoist monk, and by the way, I don't know too much about what Taoism's all about. I really don't. But today's, whatever the party in power in China right now clearly doesn't like Taoists, because both movies, the Taoists featured heavily as villains. And here once again, we have a Taoist monk that sends the Green Snake sister to basically the Chinese version of purgatory. Which is, so she's dead, but she's stuck in this sort of limbo area where people who held onto their obsessions from their real lives are stuck, and they have to get over it. And like this movie falls into one of the traps of animation that tries to look really cool, is that it ends up being about nothing really. Like it gets really, really lost in, look at this awesome set piece. And honestly, I mean, I guess you could say that that's something that happens with all movies, but with animation, it's even more sort of like, oh my goodness, we're in another fight scene. Yeah, it's just like, a couple of characters from the first movie pop in. There is this one demon who has like the face of sort of like a teenager, kind of young hip teenager, and then the back of her head is a fox, and every once in a while her head does a 180 and the fox takes over. She's sort of like a divisive, sort of like Cheshire Cat character, I guess you could say. And so it's pretty interesting, but like it's also a situation where she was really awesome in the first movie, and then in the second movie they just gave her a little too much to do. It's like, hey, that's an awesome character. Okay, I'm good. We're good. No, we're gonna keep going. Okay, I guess we're gonna keep going. If you're into anime at all, I will definitely say there is a lot here in both of these movies for you. If you are into just really interesting / cool character or creature, sort of creature ideation, there's some really cool creature ideation here. If you're looking for like a really good like animated movie to plop your kids in front of, just go to Disney Plus and find something.
This may not be it.
This may not be that, but it's good. I mean, it's overall, I am happy I have seen them. I really hope I encounter somebody that has seen them before, so I can have like a like, it's like one of those things where it's like, I'm glad I've seen it because I can like talk intelligently on it, but I'm not glad I've seen it because like I needed to see it.
Gotcha. Well, I will say this, as I was looking for the posters for the show, the various this is just one of 6 or 7 versions that I found, because it's the only one that had any English whatsoever on it. And that's not why I picked it. I picked it because it's, of the ones I saw, it's the most beautiful. They all were just so, like, when you talk about how the animation was kind of the thing that was heavily focused on, that seems to be the case with their advertising as well. So
I'm not surprised.
So now I'm curious, was it dubbed? Was it subtitled?
I did the dub version.
Gotcha.
I definitely did. I wasn't gonna say. I did.
A lot to read. So.
I had laundry to do, Sergio.
That makes sense.
All right, I had fucking laundry to do.
No judgment.
Leave me alone.
Hey, no, it doesn't bug me any. Because I was actually fed a movie that was about a creature as well.
Do tell.
A little bit different, because I got the movie Turbo. And
oh no!
Please tell me you're familiar.
Oh my god, I am so I am familiar.
Okay.
This is my go-to example
Uh,
for parents of young children that are
yeah.
like, look, you just need to get to the point where they don't drag you to every animated movie that comes out, because I had to go see Turbo.
Okay.
And so what, so I understand your pain, but don't worry, there will come a time where they don't insist on seeing every animated movie that comes
Gotcha.
out.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing, that as I watched it, it's funny how sometimes the Paul meter clicks in,
Yeah.
and I'm like, this is not a Paul. He will not have given this movie his stamp of approval.
No.
When I think about animated films.
Yes.
Turbo is and coming right on the heels of Fast X. Come on.
Oh my god.
How
That's
perfect is the universe talking to me?
Yeah.
This was hilarious.
Oh my
god. I want to say charming movie, except that it just make me shake my head so many times. I'm not gonna shit on it. It was fun for what it was, but it was to be totally honest, I don't remember hearing of it.
Okay.
This was 2012, 2013, I believe.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there. And so as soon as I saw it was a DreamWorks, I'm like, okay, well, let's see how this goes.
It can't be that bad, right?
Yeah, exactly. But again, overly simple plot, heavy emphasis on only certain moments of the animation, not necessarily all the way through. The voice work, it was fun to identify who's who. Sure. And then of course, how often are you going to get, Snoop Dogg and Samuel L. Jackson and the like. It was fun, but that's really all I can say about it, because from a story standpoint, it was quite thin. Snail wants to be fast, gets dunked in nitrous oxide and is now fast, and then goes to the Indianapolis 500.
Just the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah,
dumb.
It's not exactly a impactful plot. I don't know why I felt a little bit bothered by the taco truck guys. They were the way they were portrayed.
Okay.
I'm like, wow, this is low hanging fruit, but okay.
Yeah.
But there was. I guess it worked right in with the simplicity of the entire rest of the movie, and so not one I would recommend, because there's so much else out there that's so much better, and one that if we hadn't done Netflix Roulette, I never would have even known was out there. So
this is quintessential. Just go to Disney Plus. If you pick any movie at random, I promise you're getting better family fare that your kids will love. You don't have to show your kids movies that are kids movies. You can show them kid movies that are family movies. The thing that breaks my brain on this is the rationale for letting the snail race in the Indianapolis 500 is that because it specifically doesn't say that snails can't be in the Indianapolis 500.
Right.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Well, that, and his hero wants him to. And of course we then find out that he's the villain. And
shocking.
and another shocker, Theo wins the snail. So it was quite humorous, only because I just like, what am I, this is so silly.
It's so dumb.
Hey, it was better than Fast X. So
interesting.
I'm kind of kidding, but in its own way, I'm like, it was just such a perfect spin result that I was like, of course. And as soon as it does the shot in the movie where he gets sucked up into the nitrous oxide deal, the snail, I'm like, I was right. This is fast. So it was too easy. So a lot of fun, but very silly and very simple. So there you go. That's what Netflix Roulette gave me for the animation.
Right. Wow.
And now we move to something I'm really excited to talk to you about.
Oh, God.
And that is our second installment of Tubi Word Salad.
Yes.
Paul, talk a little bit about how we go about this.
So
for those who are watching, so they know.
Sure. So Tubi Word Salad. Tubi is a free streaming service, unlike Netflix, which you have to pay for. It has everything. I mean, it's a movie, or it's a movie service. It's a streaming service that has all the stuff that you might have seen when you were 10 and have grown up to have never seen available ever again in any way, shape, or form, and wonder, did I like eat mushrooms when I was 10 and make up the fact that this movie existed? And then you go to Tubi and there it is, and
you
it's
find it.
validation on your childhood. And also, oddly enough, every once in a while has some like really good stuff too,
Yeah.
like it's for free. And so it's a great service to go check out. But it's also a great service for me to come up with ideas for my what the hell did I just watch, because the movies that are on there can be really, 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 really bad. And but oddly so. And so it's just it has every, and also it has like wacky television shows and
Yeah.
stuff, and like it's, I don't know, it's
interesting. It really is, because it's hard, once I got my role done
Yeah.
and got my movie,
right.
just like last time, I found myself going down the rabbit hole of Tubi content
Yeah.
and just looking at and going, wow.
Yeah.
I years ago, I remember reading about the absolute exorbitant amount of movies that are made every year.
Right.
And you just think to yourself, but I never hear about them. Well, they're on
Right.
Tubi.
They're on Tubi. Yeah. And the way the word salad works is there are 3 categories of words. There's an adjective, there's an occupation, and there's a genre. And so each one of those has a list of 10, and we roll a 10-sided die and take whatever. So like, the adjective are things like lost or sad or happy, or
Mhm.
bloody, gory type of things. And then the occupations are things like vampire or soldier or scientist or teen. And then the things for genres are things like war or thriller or romance and stuff like that. So so this time around I rolled Lost Scientist War.
Okay.
And what did you roll?
I rolled Smart Gangster Action.
Okay. Ooh, interesting.
Yo,
Okay.
let me tell you.
Okay.
But you first. So
Okay. So yeah.
And again, what was yours again? Lost
Scientist War. So the scientist part got dropped out. So the reason why the word salad is fun is because you put it into Google. What you do is you put it into Google and you do watch Lost Scientist War movie on Tubi. And it'll just give you a list of, possible hits on what you're talking about. And you just take the first one.
Right.
And Google, as you know, is really good at just kind of being like, well, there's nothing that matches exactly what you're asking for, but here's the closest thing. And so I got a movie called 7 Lost. So it grabbed the Lost and it grabbed the war, and it gave me 7 Lost. And it's 7 members of I don't know if it's a platoon or what, we'll call it a platoon, a group of soldiers, American soldiers lost behind the enemy lines in Italy. And the Italian platoon knows that they're still alive and is after them. And so they need to get out of on the other side of enemy lines. And this movie highlights one of my other favorite things about Tubi, which is that it gives people who win $500,000 on a lottery scratcher and decide to use that money to make a movie, an outlet on which to exhibit that movie. Because those people, they have the $500,000 and they dump it into the movie, but they have no way to get it out so people can see it. Tubi says, don't worry, Mr. Lottery winner who squandered your money on a stupid idea. We'll take it. And that's what happened in this case. An Italian guy, it's an Italian movie, but it features a D- dubbing job for all of the Italian actors, dubbing them into English. Don't ask me how I know it's a dub. You watch the movie, you'll know it's a dub. Even though their lips are moving to English roughly, it's clearly a dub. The wonderful thing about this movie is that right off the bat, you're right off the first shot, of this film, you're in for a treat, because what they show is like sort of like the American platoon before they get broken up. The American platoon fire, like they show one of the guys and he takes a shot, and then they you scan over and you see an Italian soldier walking, and then he gets hit, and like, you know, when somebody gets hit by a bullet, like there's like usually like, this actor is like, no, I'm falling, but I am not getting hurt while I fall. So like he falls slowly and he puts his arms out in front of him, and then he like lowers himself down and falls. And it's just like, oh, this is what we're in for. All right, I'm ready. And it's an hour and a half of that. This, you know, like every once in a while we'll talk about how we've seen a 2.5 hour movie and it's like, wow, that just flew by.
Yeah.
This movie, you feel every single minute of the hour and a half. I mean, just every single minute. You definitely don't learn the names of all 7 of the soldiers that survive the initial ambush.
Okay.
But you do learn the names of a couple of them, which is an odd take, because normally if you have all 7 people, like, you're going to definitely want to get them to be known, but
right.
They don't. No, we're good. I want to share my favorite line from the movie with you right now. Okay. So the captain, the major and the captain that were in charge of this platoon were killed in the initial onslaught, which leaves a non-commissioned officer sergeant in charge. And so one of the the sergeant during, like, you know, so obviously not all 7 soldiers survive. # spoiler alert.
Yeah.
And at what the sergeant gets shot, and one of the people holding him says, "Sarge, I don't believe in half of the orders you gave, but you still die, my brother." And that was a touching moment. And then he died.
Oh,
you know, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if that doesn't tug on the old heartstrings, I don't know what will.
Yeah, you're a shit leader. But
yeah,
you're my bro.
So. And the interesting thing is, so it did feature 2 Hispanic characters. One of them was from East LA, which, by the way, I kind of want to go back to like 1940s East LA. I don't know at what point did East LA actually become sort of like a heavily Hispanic populated area of Los Angeles? I don't know. I would venture to guess it probably wasn't before World War II, but I could be wrong. I'm willing to be wrong on that. But anyway, he was like just really seriously Chicano, which was like an odd choice. I'm just gonna say it was an odd choice. Yeah. And then the other guy was from the Bronx. I think it was Bronx, and he was a Puerto Rican guy. And so
always gotta have somebody from the Bronx. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, and so and so those 2, there are a couple scenes where they speak Spanish, and then at the very end of the movie, this was the strangest thing about the movie. At the end of the movie, their title card runs. You know, two soldiers survive, only one of the 2 Hispanic ones.
Okay.
At the very end of the movie, a title card runs and says, "During World War II, 500,000 Hispanic soldiers served in the army for the United States." You know, and Hispanic soldiers fought and died in every major battle during World War II. And it's like, is that what we were going for?
Like, I'm shocked.
I'm like, is that what we were going for here? Like, what?
That was the whole message.
Really? Like, I didn't take that away from the movie. Like, wow. So bravo. That's 7 hilarious. Lost. You got to be on Tubi.
Yeah, there you go. That's the best sum up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
7 Lost for being on Tubi.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you about a little movie that I got to watch, Paul. Okay. Because I think you still did better than I did.
Oh,
given
no.
what you just took us through.
Oh, no.
Because I got a movie off of Smart Gangster Action. Action is what got dropped.
Okay.
Smart Gangster. And for all intents and purposes, for all intents and purposes, Smart got dropped too.
Okay.
So Paul, all I need to do is talk about this poster to give you the gist of this entire movie. and some of its biggest problems, because this was a mess of a movie.
Okay.
Ving Rhames owed somebody a favor, is all
Okay.
I'm going to say. And he must know Pam Grier
Okay.
and made her come along. And someone just remembered Robert Patrick was still out there.
It was available.
So the story, okay. Here's the story, because it says he crossed the wrong cop. Do you see that tagline?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. There. When I saw the poster after today, when I grabbed it because I saw it earlier this weekend,
Yeah.
I was like, what did I miss in terms of the story? Because no cop got crossed. Like there was, I'm like, what? So Ving Rhames is and there's no mafia, by the way. Like, the mafia does not make an appearance in this movie at all, because Ving Rhames is a gang leader, and apparently his gang is made up of only him and 3 other people, although apparently he's got this wide control over this portion of a city.
Okay.
That goes unnamed. He decides to sport a mohawk, like that's wider than Mr. T's and bigger.
Okay.
Because it's in the mid-70s is when this movie is set.
Okay.
His gang is made up of one guy who is wearing a very bad wig, 70s wig, like a Jerry Curl kind of action thing going on. Everybody's hair except his is straightened in this movie for some reason.
Okay.
Because, it's the mid-70s, right? It's all the 3 of them, Ving Rhames, Pam Grier, Robert Patrick, are the only name actors in this entire film, and that must have been where the budget went, because when I tell you that the opposing gang is made up of all preppy white guys that you can't even put them into like a particular group that is usually associated with mafia anything.
Okay.
It was just such a mess. And the story is, Ving Rhames is trying to seize control. Someone has been selling drugs in his very low budget strip club, and that's where it all starts. Pam Grier is the cop who's trying to bring him down, because somewhere along the way, Ving Rhames shot and killed her partner. Robert Patrick happens to be working with her, not even as a partner, but like, hey, I'm a cop, I'm going to help you. By the time this movie is over, Pam Grier is the one who gets arrested, the cop, for planting a gun. Robert Patrick is dating Ving Rhames' sister. And I'm like, what the fuck is this movie about? It has the best 2 moments. One that happens more than once. In that one of Ving Rhames' minions, he is called Double Guns, because he uses 2 sawed-off double barrel shotguns when he kills people.
Okay.
But the hilarious thing is that the 2 or 3 times we see him do it in the movie, he is obviously struggling to pick these things up. Like, you can literally tell the dude is like struggling to lift. It's hilarious.
They need to talk to the prop guy,
right? Because he pulls him out and he's like, like he has no upper body strength. And the other thing I'll comment about the poster, 2 more things, and I promise I'll be done. Do you see the sequence at the bottom? The 2 guys who are shooting, right?
Yeah, from a car. Yeah.
So that scene, Ving and his gang of 4 and their loved ones apparently have decided, for some odd reason, we're all of a sudden randomly in a park having a barbecue. And these 2 guys come along and decide to shoot up the place. The guy on the right ends up dead, and the guy in the front seat, his gun jams, and Ving Rhames is approaching. Double Guns is struggling to lift his gun, so Ving Rhames grabs one and has to walk what has got to be at least the length of a quarter city block to get to the car.
Okay.
And the dude who's gun jammed, instead of driving off, continues to mess with it is the longest sequence possible, because Ving is not exactly fast.
Right.
And you're like, dude, just drive away. And no, of course he gets killed. And it's like, this is really the dumbest thing I've ever seen. And the gun that you're seeing in the poster that Ving Rhames is holding never makes an appearance. So This movie was a mess.
Oh, really?
Never makes an appearance.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this was messy, dude. Pam Grier, Ving Rhames, Rob, I don't know what they were thinking, and yeah, this was bad. So
So
it was hilariously bad. It was
the
entertaining, and that it was so bad.
the really interesting thing is the top two credit. Like, so when you go to IMDb and look at like the credits,
Mm-hmm.
they always sort it by credit order,
Yeah,
like, so number one bill is, and so every once in a while you'll get one of those movies where it's like in order of appearance, because
right.
there's like so many famous people, they're just going to throw everybody out in order of appearance.
Yeah,
But here it's like Ving Rhames and Pam Grier are one and two, and then you have to scroll down really far to find Robert Patrick.
really.
And I'm wondering if Robert Patrick was like, if I appear in the first 20 credits of this, I will sue.
I will see you.
Yeah.
It
And
was
he
so
forgot to
bad.
tell them, do not put me on the movie poster.
And there must have been something to that, because Paul, I'll tell you that he was the one that was the most reluctant actor. You could tell he was like, "What am I doing?" And Pam, I think Ving Rhames was the only one who was trying to do any form of acting, and it was really, really bad.
Okay.
Both Pam Grier and Robert Patrick were like, "What am I? Is this what it's come to?" Like, you could tell that was literally, and they had, because again, mid-70s, they have Pam Grier in this big afro wig. When you harken back to her days,
Sure. In the
you know,
blaxploitation movies.
exactly. But it was so
Cleopatra.
unnecessary. It was
Okay.
like,
We don't
this thing was comically huge. It was just so bad. I felt for all of them.
and the 78-minute runtime was still too much for you.
I didn't even look at that, because I thought, oh, it's Ving Rhames. And then it was over, and I was like, mercifully, it is done.
But God bless Tubi, because
Again, never heard of it.
Yeah.
And now I can say I've seen it.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, come on.
yeah, right up there with the movies I've watched for this show that are some of the most classic movies that'll ever go down in history. And here I am watching Muppets.
I love Tubi word salad so much. I can't.
It's awesome.
I can't even.
It really works. It really, really works. Oh my goodness!
Oh.
And what a perfect lead in to what we're gonna do next. Because Tubi, we will do Tubi word salad again soon, because it is a lot of fun.
Okay.
But yeah, this one was just, I really it's one of those rare moments where I'm like, man, if Paul and I had watched this together, we would have just been laughing so hard.
Oh man,
so great. You got to at least watch a few minutes of it, just see what I'm talking about. If nothing else, find the scene where they shoot up the park. So,
okay.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of our Tubi word salad segment for this time around, and also our Netflix roulette. We'll look forward to more of that kind of fun in future episodes. But right now, it's time to visit with Paul once again for What the Hell Did I Just Watch?
Which
is a perfect jumping off point.
Yeah.
Paul, take it away.
Yeah. Okay. So the movie.
You gave me this title, dude. I was like,
dogs don't wear pants. Okay. This is a movie on oddly enough on Shudder. So for people who don't know, Shudder is a horror streamer. It's part of the AMC. If you subscribe to AMC Plus, you get Shudder for free. So it's under the AMC umbrella. And look, obviously we don't need to go too far. Like, you could take the title and eventually get to what this movie's about.
Okay.
Hopefully the poster tells you. I mean, this movie's it's a dominatrix. Okay, so and the reason why it's on Shudder is because there's some definite body horror in this movie.
Okay.
Though it is clearly not a horror movie. Like, only because there is some really disturbing things going on during the they're not sex scenes. I mean, they're like, it's not sex. I mean, it's not sex, right? I mean, is it? I don't know. During the kink scenes, I don't even know what to call it. But here's the thing is, so the story, just really quick, is a guy is on vacation with his family, probably in his early 30s. His wife, attractive little girl. They're in Finland, so the whole movie's in Finnish. And They're on a lake in Finland, and the guy goes inside to like get some food or something. I don't remember exactly what he went inside for. And all of a sudden, his daughter comes crying inside, and saying, mommy's gone, mommy's gone." And so he runs out and dives into the lake and finds that his wife had got caught on some fishing net while diving down into the lake. And it was a super murky lake. And so it's like, oh my God, this is horrible. This is a tragedy.
Yeah.
Fast forward 7 years. The girl is now in her early teens, not mid-teens. I'm sorry, mid-teens. And, it turns out he's a surgeon, and like a vascular surgeon, and his daughter is like, okay, I want to get a tongue pierced, and he goes ahead and lets her. And so he takes her to the place to get her tongue pierced, and he starts wandering around the place, and he stumbles into a back room where the dominatrix is working, and like she goes off on him about the fact that he had stumbled in. I forgot. Rewind the scene before we end up getting our tongue pierced. We see the dad struggling to cope with his wife being gone, by taking a pair of her underwear, putting it over his head, spraying the perfume on the underwear, and masturbating. So it's really important for what's going on, I assure you, because in being domineered for stumbling into this area where he should not be, he realizes something about himself, sets up an appointment, and there we go.
Got it.
Turns out his fetish is he likes to be he likes to be suffocated. And it's really fucking fascinating, because what happens while he's being suffocated is that he's taken back to the point in time where he dove into the water to try to rescue his wife, but just before he himself drowns, he's pulled out of the water. And so every time he's getting suffocated by the dominatrix, he's returned to that scene. And I am flat out telling you that as far as just this kind of exploration of trauma and exploration of this kind of kink, it's fucking amazing. It's a really, really, really well-made movie. Dear God, nobody should watch this movie. I mean, this is not a movie that needs to be seen. Like, it's this movie is absolutely shocking. I mean, just absolutely shocking. And does at no point makes any judgment on anybody. At no point makes anybody feel bad for themselves about being into anything. And just presents like, here, this shit's going on. And I believe it. I didn't need to see it.
Got it.
It's shock. It is just, it doesn't hold back at all.
Yeah.
It does not hold back at all. And it has, like, and so obviously, as you can imagine, the dominatrix has a hard time coping with the idea that here's this guy, and she's kind of like really kind of starting to like have feelings, because she actually ends up finding out a little bit about why he's there. And so her whole situation gets kind of fucked in her head. And then and like at the end of the movie, like after there's a non-amicable split between them. Let's just call it that. Okay. It's a very non-amicable split between the two of them. He goes and finds her in one of the clubs that he knows that she hangs out in. And it's a club where he tried to get into earlier and just wasn't right for it. But now at the end of the movie, he is right for it. And like, he shows up and I mean, and he finds her there, and there's like this really, for lack of a better word, sweet moment. And it's like, fuck this. No, this is so fucked up. But
wow,
I can't judge these people because they're consenting adults doing what they want. And
right.
But I don't need to see this. It's just, man, this is all-timer for what the hell did I just watch? An absolute all-timer.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's I the more I hear you talk about these movies, the more and
Yeah.
more I think about, what is it about film as a medium?
Yeah.
The interesting thing about this segment for me, Paul,
Yeah.
is you've leaned into different variations of the theme, right?
Mhm.
Horror, being a large portion of it, but we've also talked about movies that are more based on like trauma response and so
Yeah.
forth.
Yeah.
And it really makes me wonder how filmmaking as a medium, like what it must have been. I don't know how much you know about the people behind this particular film in terms of the director or whatever,
Right.
but more and more as you bring us these titles, I've begun to see, or have been seeing for a while now, that there are times where movies like this get made, and there's got to be some sort of trauma, like some sort of release behind doing this.
For
You
sure.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for
And
sure.
especially like you say, if your response to it is it's really bizarre, but it's a really well made film,
Yeah.
then for me it fascinates me even further, because I'm like, this is truly a situation where you can see that film from a directing standpoint and a producing standpoint is sometimes people's outlet,
For sure.
and we may never know what that is, but they
No.
created this project for some reason.
Yeah.
It
I'm
fascinates me.
sure. I'm sure I could go find an interview in some Finnish sort of journal of some kind, and
Yeah,
it would dive into that. But I don't want to dive more into this movie.
sure. Yeah. Well, and
Woo!
that, and also there could be a whole conversation
Yeah.
around what's acceptable
Yeah.
in European countries compared to what's acceptable here. I mean, that's the easy low hanging fruit conversation,
Right.
because films like this, just from what you're describing, aren't going to be what's made here, at
Right.
least not often.
Not often.
And
Although
so yeah, it
we
fascinates
did
me.
have 8 millimeter, so I don't know.
Well,
But
yeah,
it's the difference between this though and 8 millimeter is that this is clearly not being made to like be shocking. It's
yeah,
just not. It's just it is clearly, as you're saying, an exploration of just the psychology of this.
yeah, yeah,
And that's a non-judgmental exploration of the psychology of this.
yeah. And
And
I'm sure that's
it's
what makes it interesting.
yeah, it's
As tough as it was to watch. So
it's so tough to watch. Oh
yeah.
my god.
Well,
I definitely had to do this during some scenes. Like,
oh
okay,
gosh,
I can't watch what's going on.
yeah,
Hearing is more than enough.
gotcha.
So,
Well, kudos to you, my friend, because you
oof.
continue to raise the bar on this.
Mm,
I mean, I'm just not even a project anymore. You've been doing it for years, so
yes, mistress.
it is appreciated. All right, week to week, you can always find out whatever Paul is exploring in this "What the hell did I just watch"
Yep.
segment,
Yep.
and it's never dull. So,
Never dull.
thank you
No,
again, Paul.
this one was
All right, we continue with another installment of Cinema by Jen, and a movie that I learned a lot about my wife's taste in movies by this list. And I'm so glad that you said last week to me the next one is going to be an animated film
yeah.
off the list. Because this week's installment is the movie Jawbreaker.
Yeah.
I think it was 1999 is when it was released.
Yeah.
And Christina Applegate, Rose McGowan, and I forget the name of the third actress, but I was sitting there watching the movie going, where have I seen her? And it was the actress that played Rita in Dexter. I don't know if you ever saw the series Dexter.
Yeah.
But she
Okay.
played his wife. Well,
Okay.
up until, well,
Whatever.
I don't want to give it away.
It had
It's for
to be
those who
fun.
haven't seen the series. But yeah, so this movie was, I'm not going to say I didn't enjoy it. It was just like, okay, this is sort of a pattern here in terms of what movies my wife tends to like.
Yeah.
And she admittedly, after the movie was over, said, "Hey, I didn't say it was great. I said that I needed you to watch it because she wanted to hear my thoughts on it and so forth." And so the movie itself, you're familiar, I imagine.
I saw it when it was out in theaters originally, and remember just disliking it.
Yeah, it really was one of those things where
yeah,
the attempt at this movie, it's a very basic story. Three girls accidentally kill one of their best friends, and then it's all about concealing the act, right? Their guilt in the act. I mean, it's every bit as predictable when you know that they're trying to hide something that can't be hidden. One of them is actually going to be one of them has to be the character that has the moral center that's going to do something about it. But the most fascinating part of this film is the whole storyline of the conversion of Fern Mayo, the character who's the mousy. She comes upon them after they're discussing that they've got to hide the fact that they accidentally killed this girl, and their solution is to bring her into the girl gang and create a new version of her. That's where the plot gets very flimsy, because it's like, okay, well, now we're talking about the moral center of this person who is just going to say, okay, I won't say anything because I'm now I'm going to be popular. And anyway, by the time it's over and the person, the villain, the villainous one, Rose McGowan, gets her comeuppance, you're like, okay, cool. Like,
just go watch Mean Girls.
It's a send up of, maybe it's a send up of that. I don't know what the timing is in relation to Mean Girls.
I'm pretty sure this came before Mean Girls, but
did it? Okay, yeah. Well, yeah, Mean Girls did it better and with less darkness. So yeah. And
this is just a movie that just didn't work, as I recall. Like, it's been 23 years, I guess, 24 years since I've seen it, and it just I just remember when it was over, just being like, oh, that just didn't work,
I get where it was going, but it didn't quite get there.
So maybe if they tried to do I want to say Roger Waters, but it's not Roger Waters. The movie last week was John Waters. Thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe if they just decided to make an hour and a half homage to John Waters,
it might have worked a little bit. Yeah,
especially
with the whole Jawbreaker theme.
Yeah.
So there you go. Well, and again, I'm glad I watched it. And again, it's another movie I get to say I watched with Jen, and
there you go.
To her credit, she's like, I didn't say it was a great movie. She just said I wanted you to watch it. So, that's that. Now the list. Do you have it close by? Because I want you to pick the animated movie that's off. Because there's a few still.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to scroll for it, but I will find it. I'm gonna do
it. While you do that, let me go ahead and just remind folks that if you're watching us here on YouTube, thank you so much for being here. Or if you're watching on Facebook Live, we thank you for doing that. Don't forget, you can catch our episodes if you missed them live by clicking the subscribe button on YouTube and the notification bell so you know when our episodes land. So please join us week to week to hear our thoughts on not just new movie releases, but also in these segments where we look back and or watch stuff that is really, really unique. So, okay. All right.
We're going to go ahead and just do we're gonna do Encanto.
Okay.
Yes.
Next week will be Encanto. All right. Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Paul, you have one more thing for us before we go. And that is you went to watch the new release, Disney's latest live action version of one of their films, The Little Mermaid.
Yes.
So I'll turn it over to you for your review on this film.
Okay. So super short version of the review is, if you're going to make a completely unnecessary remake of an amazing animated movie, this is the way you should probably do it.
Okay.
I imagine that there might be better ways to do it, but you might as well do this. And I want to, when I talk about this, I want to throw in that the kind of the first movie that started us off on this path was the Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland, and it was not a remake of the original movie. It literally was a sequel to the original movie and an expansion on the lore, and really kind of took what was made before and just said, that's not what we're doing here. Not even with the characters or anything. We're just gonna, we're jumping off from the books and saying what happens 2 years later type of thing. And to its credit, I mean, if you want to lump that in with what they're doing now, it's by far the best. But of the ones that are just true reenactments of what's already been presented, I guess this is as good as you're going to get, and the best one. There's I love the casting of Ariel. I mean, Halle Bailey is, it just comes across as a super duper star in this.
Yep.
And I love, love the idea of representation mattering. And I love that it did fantastic in the box office because of that. And I hope that it doesn't drop off much next week, even though it will, because it's not a holiday weekend, blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
And people will absolutely turn that into the narrative that they want to turn it into. But I am glad they can't turn this into the narrative of, see, nobody wanted to see this, because clearly people wanted to see this. And I love that. But that doesn't change the fact that it was the only if the only reason for this was for representation, I would say, okay, cool. But I know that's not the only reason for it.
Sure.
And so we just end up with something that just feels like a photocopy. A black and white photocopy of the original that somebody then comes in and colors on their own. I mean, that's what these movies are.
Yeah.
They're poor black and white photocopies that somebody comes in and poor quality and just colors in. It's like, okay, but I have the original. Like,
right.
The original's right over there, and I could go watch it. It's so good.
Yeah,
and it's so good. And I know that's why you want to make a new version of it. But look at the original; it's so good. Lin-Manuel Miranda, who I love, I unabashedly added 3 songs to this movie, one of which was fantastic and got to feature Halle Bailey, one of which was mediocre, primarily because it was a song for Eric, and just Eric isn't the center of the story, and it added an extra 10 minutes to the movie. And then one of which is sung by Awkwafina, who takes on the Buddy Hackett role as Scuttle.
Okay.
And it's Awkwafina singing, and that's all you need to know. And it's just like, no, I don't need Awkwafina singing. I don't need it. The animation is okay, really good in some places, really, really bad in other places. And thankfully, I think they recognized that they couldn't do Flounder. They couldn't they made a decision. We're going to make the fish realistic, and we're not going to anthropomorphize the fish. And in doing so, they realized we can do a pretty good job with Sebastian, but there's not a goddamn thing we can do with Flounder that's not going to be nightmare fuel. And so we just need to cut Flounder's role in the proceedings, in half, and just like as little Flounder as we can without, just absolutely traumatizing small children. And so that's what they did. And I think it was a good decision, even though people who love the original and love Flounder from the original, I'm a Sebastian guy, are going to be outraged. Most of the song scenes are fine. What they did with Under the Sea, I don't get it. Like if you've seen the original.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Under the Sea from the original is it is such a kaboom moment in animation history. Like not just in film, like in that particular movie, but Little Mermaid saved a fucking studio. It saved the Walt Disney Studios. It really genuinely did. Like if Little Mermaid doesn't work, Disney is probably bought up by somebody for pennies on the dollar to be sold off for its parts. True story, 100% true story.
Yep.
But Little Mermaid saved that. And what did that for Little Mermaid was this fucking Under the Sea musical number that was just kaboom off of the screen. Bonkers. And it just, it's just like, it's just like a firework that just, and it's
and see, someone like me, had I seen it, that would have really brought it down even more, because that's what I would look forward to, because I think you said this, and don't let me misquote you, but we had a conversation a few weeks back, maybe a few months, about why these movies are happening, and you talked a bit about the whole, well, it's for the, maybe it's for this generation, right. But that's why when someone like me, for the ones that I have seen, it's the letdown, because I'm so taken by the originals. And so now that you've said that, it's like, man, I don't know if I could have handled that kind of letdown after watching Mafia. So
it's tough, and it's when you're talking about the musical ones, the heavily musical ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King. That's the problem, is
Yeah.
that the what they do in the animated musical numbers will just come across as silly in the live action animated ones, and they have to be fucking silly.
Yeah.
Like they have to be. And it's just
Yeah.
but all that being said, it's still like significantly better than the Aladdin, and it's
Okay.
still significant, like light years better than the Pinocchio, and much better than the Peter Pan one. It's good
Mm-hmm.
and completely and totally unnecessary.
Gotcha.
Just so we don't need it. But if they're going to do it, okay, this is what you need to do. But they need to the lesson learned here should hopefully be stop it with the musical numbers. You need whatever you're doing, you need to multiply it by 100, because you're zapping the energy. You can't zap the energy. It's got to be, you got to turn it up.
Gotcha.
This one goes to 11.
Yeah. So then, with your thoughts there, Paul, on our 5 taco scale, guac, where do you land for the Little Mermaid?
I'm gonna do 3 plus guac, and the guac is for Halle Bailey because she is really amazing.
Yeah, I've heard great things about her performance. So
I want to give it. I really wanted to give it 4, but the more I thought about it, I was like, I can't do it. I can't.
Okay.
I went and saw it with Blair, who was a one-time very frequent viewer here, and he loved it. And he said his rating was 4 plus guac.
Yeah.
When I left the theater, like I was definitely like enamored with his reaction to it, and I was really happy that he loved it. And I was thinking 4, but the more I thought about it, I was like, no, it's really 3 plus guac, because there are things that just don't quite work. Oh, all that being said, I forgot the guac is also for I have to mention her,
Melissa McCarthy.
Melissa McCarthy as Ursula is bonkers amazing.
Yeah.
Like that, and honestly, that's what this movie works, because of Melissa McCarthy and Halle Bailey, because she just glams it up, and it is so perfect.
Gotcha.
And Blair referred to her as Melissa McCarthy as Cthulhu Ursula, and that's really what it is. And it's just like, yes, that's what it is exactly.
Gotcha. Yeah, Jen did go catch this one, and she came in with a 4 taco rating.
Okay,
but she said heavily because of Melissa McCarthy. So.
Yeah, Melissa McCarthy is the balls in this movie, 100%. So.
Yeah, excellent. Well, thank you, Paul, for making the time to go catch it, so you could let us know what you thought. And this coming week, are we going to be going into the Spider-Verse?
We are dipping our toes into the Spider-Verse, my friend.
You'll be happy to know I finally watched the first one.
Excellent. And
oh my goodness, it was so awesome.
Right?
It's so frenetic in the first and second act that by the time the third act rolls around, I was okay with the freneticism, and I really enjoyed it. I have been sleeping on this film, and it's a shame, but I'm glad I saw it ahead of next week ahead of this week. It was wow. I mean, I don't even know how to what would you do? You remember what you rated it, or what, because this for me was a strong 4 plus guac, just because so many levels, so many cool animation, they played so much with different types of animation.
Yeah.
And the story is fantastic. The portrayals, the young man that plays Miles is wonderful as a voice actor. I loved it.
I was 5 stars on this one.
Was it? Okay, yeah.
I was 5 stars.
It was awesome.
It's perfect. The animation is and they just do the wonderful thing about the animation is it lets you know this isn't your universe. Like you're not watching something taking place in your universe, and they're just little subtle hints that it's like it's not your universe, but it's just slightly off from your universe, and it's just like, God, it's so good, and it's so alive. It is just such an absolute breath of fresh air to the world. And I'm not even just talking about to the superhero world or any. It's just, it is an absolute breath of fresh air, and I am so ridiculously excited for the sequel. So
yeah, I am as well. Now that I've seen it, and so next week we'll be talking about what is it, Across the Spider-Verse this time around? Is that what it's called?
Yes, I believe yes. This
Yeah,
was Into the Spider-Verse.
Across the Spider-Verse will be the sequel.
Yeah,
and very much looking forward to it. Just again, just on one watching, I was like, okay, I'm ready for this week and excited about it. So we will make that the centerpiece discussion. Maybe we'll even talk a little bit about the first one, and we'll see if it carries over as well as I think it will. I mean, if all the same people are behind it in terms of its production.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
and you're adding Oscar Isaac, so I'm
exactly. Yeah, I'm stoked. So I'm looking forward to that for next week. Anything else you want us to talk about next week, Paul, off the top of your head that you know?
I was just looking at that.
There's not much else.
The Boogeyman's coming out. It's a Stephen King movie. I wasn't sure if you were going to be like, dude, we got to go see the Boogeyman. So
not a book of his I've read or story, but if I have time, I certainly will. If you want to.
I don't know if I'm going to get to it. So
yeah, let me know. Let me know.
Yeah, I will. No, I mean, there's not like, and then we're off the following week because I will be out of town. So
got it. Yeah, we'll talk about that for myself as well because late June I'll be on vacation, but we'll figure all that out. For now, though, Paul, thank you as always for what you bring to the show. It's always fun. Man. So really enjoy it, and looking forward to next week already.
Yeah.
To all of you out there, we thank you so much for joining us as you always do, whether it's live or whether you catch us afterwards. Don't forget, we love you, and we always remind you, you're awesome, you're amazing, and the world's a better place because you are in it. We will see you next time on Real to Real Talk. Good night, everybody.
Bye.